Today, we are going to be cooking with Blue Smoke Salsa. So we are doing a pecan-crusted West Virginia trout with our brand new flavor, which is the pineapple habanero. Then we're going to glaze our meatballs that we made from Johnny's Meat Market with the blueberry jalapeno. And then we are going to make a chili with two different West Virginia products, the new cherry chipotle Blue Smoke Salsa and the Copperhead Bloody Mary mix. So come on down to the Capitol Market, let's get cooking. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what else you could do with salsa. Of course you can dip it with chips, and you know, football season's coming up. But we're going to talk about the versatility of things like this. We're going to talk about a couple things that I'm not going to do, but you know, things like meatloaf, things like the glazes. You know, it's kind of an easy starter for things like chili. So we're going to go ahead and start by starting with chili. So obviously we've got our ground beef from inside at Johnny's. So we're going to start out with a Blue Smoke meets another great product, West Virginia product, also from New River Brands, Copperhead Bloody Mary mix. So this is a great West Virginia product as well. So what I'm going to do is kiss it. Just keep it simple, stupid. I'm going to start out with your fresh ground beef. We're going to, you know, saute that up with a little Villa di Trapano olive oil, another awesome West Virginia product. Now, normally I would not start out with a finishing olive oil in here, but thanks to AARP and our unlimited budget, we're going to start out with a $40 bottle of olive oil. Thank you, Gaming. So we're starting out with our fresh ground beef. We're going to get this cranked up a little bit. Make sure you get probably a lean ground beef. So this is another, you know, we have the Chef Paul's Country Road chili recipe. So there's also a couple of things that we could change in this. Let's say you're a hunter, you got a bunch of ground venison in the freezer. I would definitely do this with venison. If I did that, I would probably do it with the blueberry jalapeno. The blueberry, along with kind of that gaminess of the venison, the blueberry would really meld very well with that. You could do it with, you know, ground turkey, which I would probably do the, like we're gonna do here with the cherry chipotle. You could do it with the mild. We're also today gonna do a pecan crusted trout with that. Can you see it? Better? Yeah! Thank you. Better? Good? Good. More? See, I'm super handy too. My wife would definitely disagree. Not very handy, don't like spiders. She has to kill all the insects. You know. Thank God I could cook. Start out with the lean ground beef, 90-10. That way, you know, number one, we're gonna drain a little bit of the fat off of it. So I'm gonna crank this up a little bit. So we see in here, we got a little bit of the fat coming off. Get this rolling. While we do that, another easy tailgate tip is we have some meatballs that I made earlier. So you can go to Sam's Club or here, buy some ground beef, roll your meatballs. You can buy them pre-done. I am going to do this one with our blueberry jalapeno. So we've got jalapeno, so it's got a little bit of heat, it's got a little bit of sweet. I think it'll pair really, really well with these meatballs. And again, when you're entertaining at home, try to obviously buy the best products you can and try to do as little to it as possible so you can spend more time with your guests and your friends rather than in the kitchen like I do. My wife can definitely attest that I definitely spend more time in the kitchen than I do anywhere else. So I'm gonna mix these up. The sugar from the natural sugars from the blueberry, the caramel onions, everything is going to really char and get nice coating on these meatballs. I think you'll be super happy with this. I'm gonna pair it nicely with a nice wine. So I'm gonna pop this right in the oven. Again, thank you to AARP for this wonderful convection oven. It is actually nicer than the one I have at 1010. See the chili's rolling pretty well right now. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add our spices. So this is really important as you add your spices to the beef. Otherwise, we've all had chili before and it tastes like, the liquid tastes like chili and the beef tastes like beef. Good, just not great. So these are the little details that we do as chefs that are kind of layering these flavors. So we're adding cumin, chili powder, paprika. I usually would add smoked paprika. I think that is actually in the recipe. It says optional, but because we're adding the chipotle, which is a smoked jalapeno pepper, we're gonna omit that. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. Key, J.Q. Dickinson salt and pepper. We're gonna add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce and continue with the list. We're gonna add a little bit of our beef base, beef bouillon. If you know, we all probably have a beef bouillon cubes. This is a fancy beef base that we buy at the restaurant. A little bit easier to use because I don't have to unwrap each individual package. Now I'm gonna stir this up. I'm gonna add a bay leaf or two. Make sure I clean up my area so my chef doesn't yell at me. Get this rolling. So what this is doing is it's making the beef taste like chili. If you wanted to, again, ground turkey, ground chicken, ground bison, ground venison. I think at one point we did a cooking class where we had ground camel. I'm down for it. Our beef is cooked almost through. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our Blue Smoke Cherry Chipotle. This is the very first can ever opened of Blue Smoke Cherry Chipotle. Super cool. So we got our cherry chipotle. We're gonna fancy cherries. So you got a little smokiness, a little heat from, you know, those smoked jalapeno peppers. Now, instead of adding water, Bloody Mary mix. And then we can pair this with a Bloody Mary. Great. Or if you like tequila, we'll do a Bloody Maria. I use wine in the food pretty often, and sometimes, or when I cook, sometimes I actually use it in the food. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and do, because we have a wonderful turnout today, I'm gonna do two. Can you guys see in the back? Good? Awesome. So, just in case we didn't have enough smoke, I'm gonna add a little bit of J.Q. Dickinson smoked salt to this just to finish. Salt is one of these things that I think a lot of chefs use as a crutch. Salt is a flavor carrier. Salt gets the sweet, sour, you know, bitter, umami flavors to our tongue. It kind of opens up our palate to other flavors. It makes sweet taste sweeter. It makes bitter taste more bitter. It is a wonderful flavoring, but we just have to use it in moderation. All right, I'm gonna let this go for just a little bit. And how easy was that? I'm gonna go ahead and put this over here. Yeah, let me grab one more towel. So we're gonna do this in stages today since there's so many people. I think it'd be easier to go ahead and do a sample of the chili. Just be very careful, it is hot. Tell me what you think of it. Super, super excited about this collaboration. Again, you can pre-order here today at the West Virginia Marketplace. You can get on bluesmokesalsa.com. If you order today, you'll ship tomorrow. You might even get it before the rollout at Tamarack. We're going to roll it out on West Virginia Day. I am super excited about it. This is my first, thing that actually, if you look on the back, it's cool too. It's got, Robin's picture and my picture on it, so it's cool. Next, what's more West Virginian than trout? So I am going to, again, unlimited budget. I'm going to pour about a half a cup of this very wonderful olive oil. Thank you again, Galen and AARP. So salt and pepper on the fish. Then I have crushed up pecans and a little bit of panko breadcrumbs. So if you're gluten intolerant, I'll apologize in advance. And I'm just going to sprinkle it right on the top. I wanted to come home to my community, to West Virginia. And nothing was more evident and why I did that than when we were in Chicago. Literally the outpour and the love that I felt. It didn't matter if we won or lost. To come in second out of, no lie, a million chefs. You think about those states, you think about how many restaurants are there, you think how many chefs could have been nominated, and to be number one in the conversation and number two there in the Lyric Theater with my wife who let's give it up for Carrie, but she literally has this business is not the easiest business for families. Luckily she lives in in Charleston, South Carolina, so she didn't have to deal with it. Or coming home at midnight, or going in at 6 o'clock in the morning, or working 120 hours a week. All right, so we get our pan hot, our oil hot, then put the fish in. If nothing else that you remember from today, number one, buy Blue Smoke Salsa or buy local. Number two, hot pan, hot oil. It will save you a lot of headache. Your chicken, your fish, your beef won't stick. You'll get that nice protein browning, which is where all the flavor comes from. Still, if you're doing your grill, hot, little bit of salt and pepper. I don't do a ton too. I'm classically French trained. I went to arguably the best culinary school in the world. I can smother everything with butter and cream and hollandaise sauce. I choose to, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, the best products that I could possibly buy, the most seasonal ingredients, and do as little to it as possible. And when in doubt, wrap it in bacon. So another trick, another chef trick that I'm not going to do today, but if you're at home, you see the chefs kind of basting. When you flip this over to get the skin side, and you can eat trout skin. I love it, it's good for you. You do need to get it a little bit crispy, so I'm gonna flip this over, and then you can add a couple of pats of whole butter. You wouldn't start out with whole butter because the solids in the butter will burn. And number one, if you're like me, you set off your smoke alarm anyways. Olive oil just gives you a fighting chance. So I probably crowded my pan just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and flip these. I'm gonna get this skin nice and crispy. Make sure you season the fish, and then I also seasoned, there was a little bit of salt in the bread crumb and pecan mixture too. again, we're layering those flavors. So you think about, when I think about a dish, when I'm curating a dish for the pitch, when we're talking about curating a new flavor at Ellen's or 1010, you think about the flavor, you think about the texture, you think about what it's doing in your mouth, you think about cool, hot, crunch, savory, the mouthfeel that you get. All of these things make the perfect bite. So what I thought about with this is the nut is going to add a little bit of richness from the fat in the nut. You're going to have a little bit of texture from the nuts. You're going to have the fish, which has a nice, rich, velvety mouthfeel to it. And then the salsa is going to add a little bit of acidity, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of heat, which is what all of these things are missing. And it's not hot. So the salsa is going to be a little cool temperature-wise, a little bit of heat in your palate. So it's really, the acidity is very, very important. The acidity, so I don't think about the first or second bite. The first or second bite is great. I think about the fifth, sixth, seventh bite. If it's seasoned to the point where it's almost over seasoned, when you get about halfway through that dish, your palate's gonna get tired, it's gonna get very salty. It's not gonna be the best eating experience. I'm gonna go ahead and cut one of these in half. We're almost there. I'm gonna check our meatballs. Those are smelling good. Yes. The kitchen as we know, if we have a large family, the kitchen is controlled chaos, especially in the restaurant business. When you're trying to do 150 people in a 40-seat restaurant, you have to be very organized. You have to have all your mise en place, which is our French term. It's kind of how I live. Mise en place is a French term for everything in place. So not only mentally, but physically. I've got to have all my products here. I've got to have my olive oils. I've got to have my fire. I've got to have my recipes. I've got to have everything together. Or if you order something and I don't have that, it throws, being in the kitchen is basically like a house of cards. One card falls, the whole night is ruined.